fame, if you win it, comes and goes in a minute. Where's the real stuff in life to cling to? Long.
We're thrilled to have a famous movie stunt actor with us today, Brad Loree. You'll always be remembered for the iconic role that you played as Michael Myers in Halloween Resurrection, Brad. What are your thoughts?
Well, Larry, my thoughts are I get a chuckle out of this because that's what I'm known for because, Larry, I was never a horror fan as a kid. You know, I still haven't seen the original Dracula or Frankenstein or The Mummy. But I did see the first Halloween on my cousin's recommendation, and I just loved it. I loved the sequel, and I went to see the third one, and then the guy didn't show up, so I stopped watching them. But when I got offered the role, I had just finished another show, very lucrative show. And I honestly, Larry, if they had offered me to play any other horror character, even Jason Voorhees, I think I would have turned it down because I really wanted to go back to the show. But when they offered me the role of Michael Myers, that I couldn't say no to. That for me was the one horror icon that I wanted to play. And so it was a complete fluke. I passed on going back to the other show, which was the best move I ever made. They got canceled halfway through the third episode of the second season. And the rest is history.
Well, how about the other accomplishments that you've had in your career?
Well, Larry, when I was a young stunt wannabe, getting into the local stunt group here in Vancouver, Stunts Canada, that was like getting made in the mafia. You know, if you got into Stunts Canada, you were guaranteed to make X amount of money and blah, blah, blah. So, but it never entered my head that I could be a member. It took Ken Kersinger, who gave me a real leg up by telling me, you know, what to do and introducing me to everybody. And but getting into Stunts Canada, getting my black belt, getting into Stunts Canada, and playing Michael Myers are the three biggest things to me that I've ever accomplished in my life.
And are those your challenges? Were those your challenges?
Absolutely, absolutely. Getting my black belt. I remember when I got my black stripe. You know, the first thing they do is they give you a black stripe on your white belt, and I went to bed that night feeling that I was a genuine karateka. Because everybody in the world's a white belt, but I've got a black stripe on my white belt, so I'm now a genuine martial artist, you know. And I was only 14 or 15 years old, you know, and but that was such a big deal because I was so in love with Bruce Lee. And then becoming good friends and sparring partner with Tony Morelli, who was my karate instructor when I was 14, Larry. He went on to become a world cruiserweight kickboxing champion, and then became a stunt guy. He's the one that dragged me along and introduced me to Ken Kersinger and all the rest of the guys. And it's really his doing. He's no longer with us, but I thank him every day for giving me this life.
And how about disappointments, Brad?
Disappointments, Larry. On a personal level, I wish I'd have had a better relationship with my parents, especially my father. We never got along, and my son, who's just turned 44, hasn't spoken to me in a year and a half. And you know, Larry, you can blame everything and everybody, but eventually you have to recognize the one common denominator of all your bad relationships is you. You know, so
right. Well,
I'm disappointed, Larry, that I still haven't found my girl. I still haven't found my life's partner, and I'm not getting any younger. So that's I'm still hopeful, but I'm not putting any money on it.
You know, we've got a lot in common, my friend.
Well, you know, I don't know you that well, Larry, but I'm starting to get a gist.
let me
starting to see a pattern.
let me tell you something. I never got along with my father either, and yeah, terrible. And on his deathbed, I apologized to him for all the shit that I caused, and he couldn't say anything because he was about ready to die. But that's one of the most avid moments in my life that I can remember.
Well,
And
God bless you for clearing that up. You know, you sent your father off on a good note. You did the right thing, and because Larry, I've known some guys that had real issues with their fathers, and like my uncle-in-law, a pseudo uncle-in-law who was my lawyer. You know, he had a horribly abusive father, but he said when his father passed, he made a comment about, you know, for all the ins and outs, once they're gone, they're gone. Anything left unsaid is left unsaid. And another buddy of mine had two older brothers, and the three of them couldn't stand their dad. But when their father retired, he decided he was going to make friends with his boys. The two older brothers went off fishing with dad, and my buddy said, "To heck with you." And then when dad went down in a plane, Larry, and all those coulda, shoulda, woulda, you know, it's too late. So,
well, on a lighter note, look here, my
yeah.
friend. Can you see that?
Larry, not only can I see that, I want to know if you're coming to Amsterdam. Ken and I are going to Amsterdam on August 11th.
It's one of my favorite cities in Europe.
Larry, you and I have too much in common.
I know, it's
Right
unbelievable.
right here. It's a one blank spot on my arm. I'm saving that spot there. When I get to Amsterdam this August, I'm gonna finally get my one Dutch tattoo that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to have at least one tattoo from Amsterdam. Oh yeah, it's my favorite place in the world for all the right reasons.
Yeah, it's a great place, a terrific place. I first went there in 1967 and 68.
Oh,
You're,
67, 68.
you were probably just a kid.
I was riding my bicycle down Sunny Home Crescent singing "Light My Fire." That's what I remember about 67, 68.
Well, I love that place. I love that place. I love the
Yep.
people. It's
Yep.
wonderful because they speak English and I don't have to learn another language. I mean, it's just a great city.
And they put they decriminalized the vice there, and they put a lot of that money into their medical system. It just makes so much sense to me,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, prostitution was never a problem in that city.
No,
And
no,
it-
it's all
so, I
all
mean, and neither was marijuana or any of the other types of dope that were involved in the area.
yeah, yeah. It's
So,
all segregated to a certain area, and people were left alone. So I agree with you.
yeah, yeah. Now, you've said that you're not a horror movie fan. What do you like? What are your favorites?
Larry, you know, I'm trying to figure out the proper classification for the movies I like. I like movies about relationships. I like stories about people and the earth and planet Earth. I'm not into sci-fi or fantasy. Romantic comedies I enjoy if they're somewhat believable, but they're just getting so out of hand with political correctness. They're just not believable anymore. For example, I'm a big fan of Woody Allen. More his old work than his recent stuff, but those kind of films that show relationships between friends and family and love interests that are are realistic about life, the day to day life for the average Joe. That's the kind of film I enjoy.
Are you romantic at heart?
I think that I am. I get very emotional these days whenever I see intimacy amongst people, and I don't know if that makes me romantic, but I love people, and
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I like to think so.
Okay, I have an interview with a fellow by the name of Ken Kirchinger
Oh,
in May. What do you know about that guy?
well, I'll tell you, it's 2023, and back in 1983, Larry, Ken Kersinger, Ian Tracy, and myself were all sitting around the extras holding tent on a movie called Runaway, which was a Tom Selleck, Gene Simmons, Cynthia Rhodes movie about good and evil, cops and mechanical robotic spiders and whatnot. But that was 40 years ago. I've known Kenny, and actually, Larry, I didn't really pursue stunting when I first did it because I always thought of myself as an actor, and I had a hard time imagining me making a living at the same level as my friend Tony because I so looked up to the guy since I was 14 years old. The guy was my idol. But Ken Kersinger is the one who, after work one day, we went for a beer, and he said, "Brad, you get a headshot, a pager, and a resume, and I'll take you around and introduce you to everybody you need to meet." And from that day on, Larry, he and another guy named Charles Andre and myself were inseparable for the next 3 years. And we weren't working; we were hanging out together. And Kenny took Charlie and I under his wing, and he really gave us both our careers and set the path for our lives. So Kenny lives about 10 minutes from me, and I always look forward to traveling with him and spending time with him because we don't hang out a lot here at home, but when we go on these road trips together, they're always an adventure.
That's great. That's great. There's another person I want you to comment on. Her name is Melissa Stubbs.
Melly Stubbs. Melissa Stubbs was she is arguably the greatest stunt woman in the world or in her day. I've known Mel again since Melissa since '93. Had a big crush on her initially, but was too shy to do anything about it. But I worked my big break as a stunt guy. One of my big breaks because it was my first big doubling job where I was doubling the lead male of the lead man of this $4 million pilot called Adventure Inc. And Melissa was doubling the female lead. So Mel and I were working together every day for 3 or 4 weeks. And we're both members of Stunts Canada. She has since moved on and joined the American team. But no, I love Mel. I don't get to talk to her. We've been out of touch, for the last 20 years. But I just saw her, Larry, 2 weeks ago at a celebration of life for one of our old time stunt guys. But I haven't seen Melissa face to face in it's got to be 15 years. But I love her to death, and I hope she's happy. That's all I ask.
And what are your thoughts about female stunt doubles?
Well, Larry, if you have a female lead that's got some physical action, you have to have a female stunt double. Are you asking about certain incidences around female stunt doubles?
No, I'm just asking about the general public who probably doesn't think of a stunt double as a female, and unless you get into it, you don't find out that there are some great stunt doubles that are females.
Well, yes, that thinking's a little antiquated. I know what you're saying, but we've been using women for decades, and some of them have gone. I mean, look at Zoe Bell out of New Zealand. She got so into QT's good books that Quentin Tarantino made her an actor. And, but Melissa was one of those people who knew at 7 years of age she wanted to be a stunt person. And she is the most focused and passionate person about stunt work. She has no interest in being an actor or, because she's a beautiful woman. And but she always wanted to be the one that rode the horse and fell off, not the one that rides the horse to the mark, jumps off, and kisses the other lead. Which I never understood. I always thought I wanted to be John Wayne. I didn't want to be John Wayne's stunt double. But you go where your connections and nepotism are, and so that's how I ended up doing stunt. But no, Melissa just had a birthday on the 10th.
And now you've been in the Canadian stunt group for 25 years. Is that right?
I got into Stunts Canada on May 16th, 1999. How do I know that exact date, Larry? Well, that was Tony Morelli's birthday.
Ah,
It was his birthday. It was a Sunday morning. He called me to tell me I got in the group, and I had 700 questions for him, and then his phone died. So, but I immediately went to meet up with Ken and Charlie and another guy named Mike, and we called Melissa, and they were the first four people that I talked to when I got in the group. So, because Larry, they voted on me a number of times over the years. They only vote once a year, and I missed by one vote, missed by one vote, missed by two votes. And so when I finally got in, I because I started to get to where because they voted on me like 4 or 5 times and I didn't get in. So I started to think that I was going to be a never was, and then one day that I just got that one extra vote, and in I went. And it was a big deal because they had at one time had the voting margin at 66%, Larry. So you only needed 2 out of 3 people, but then they upped it to 80%, and that's maybe why it took me a little longer to get in than some people. But yeah, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
it sounds like a long road. Have you had a
Well,
long road?
it is a long road. There is nothing set in stone, but no matter who you are or how talented you are, it's like any kind of apprenticeship program. It's 5 years. It's 5 years of you proving yourself, and then your name comes up, and they look at you. But some people have been fast tracked, and that didn't work out. So, but yeah, it's a process. It's a different deal today than it was then. Politics and power has shifted, but they've been my second family for 25 years. I'll be a lifetime member next year when the date comes up. It'll be 25. And once you're 25 years in the group, you're what they call a lifetime member.
Now help me with this, Brad. What's the difference between a stunt actor and a coordinator?
Okay, a stunt actor is a stunt man who can say a couple lines before he gets struck and falls to the ground. Larry, if you've got a TV show or a movie where you got a bodyguard or a security guard, a cop, whomever, who says stop or I'll shoot, then he gets shot and falls down. Well, in the old days, they would hire an actor to do the lines, and then they'd have to hire a stunt person to fall down. But for a couple of 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, it was cheaper for production, and it was here in Vancouver that stunt actor became an actual category in the union contract, like in the actual language. And basically, instead of hiring one guy and then having to hire a double, Larry, you hire one guy to do the lines and do the fall and pay him 75% of what you would pay 2 people. So it puts more money in the performer's pocket, and it saves money for production. A stunt coordinator is the key or the head of the safety department. Any kind of physical action that comes under the heading of stunting, and that can be from sitting in a car as a passenger. You can be considered a stunt person because the speed of the wheels are loose or whatever, to jumping off of building 10 stories. But the stunt coordinator is in charge of all the safety on set for any physical action.
And how about a coordinator?
That is what a stunt coordinator is. Coordinator is the stunt manager. You have a key to person for each department: hair, makeup, wardrobe, props, all this and that. And the stunt coordinator is in charge of hiring the right people to get the physical action on any aforementioned projects done.
Now tell me how important connections are to you, Brad.
Well, Larry, in my day, I don't know anybody that got into the business without knowing somebody. Because for a guy with no education or trade like myself to come in and make the kind of money that I made in my day, this was the kind of money that only educated people make. But so you needed to know somebody. Now today, 20 years later from my day, Larry, it's as if all the second place athletes discovered filmmaking. And what I mean by that is you're the fastest guy in the world, the best kickboxer, the best taekwondo, whatever, gymnast. You get on the cover of Wheaties and you make $1 trillion. The person that was 1/10 of a second behind that person goes back home and tries to scrape out a living. What they used to do, I don't know, but the world class martial artists and gymnasts have found that they can make, and even the people from like the Cirque du Soleil girls, we have some of them now in the business. They can make a very good living as stunt people in the film industry. So my point is, the talent in the stunt community here in Vancouver has risen exponentially from my day.
Okay. And how about friendships? You talked about Ken, but how many friendships do you really think you've made in the business?
Friendships. Okay, Larry, I wish this was between you and me, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've made a ton of friends and a ton of people that I love that I see when I'm on set or in that crowd. But Larry, as far as people I'm still going to be talking to once I'm 10 years removed from the business, there's a lot of people, like any business, there's a lot of people that I would categorize as work associates with whom I am friendly. But as far as lifetime friends, I remember as a kid, all the adults used to say, if you have a handful of people around you when you die, you did well. And I thought that was the most ridiculous thing as when I was a child, but I understand that today. Because in this life, Larry, friends come and friends go. And I do believe that a lot of us build great bonds and friendships around our work associates, our workmates. And in some businesses, you do hang out with those people forever. But stunting is not something you do, well into your later years. Not full time anyway. But I have made lots of friends, lots of people that I intend to be in touch with. But Larry, I find that I've been on disability since 2009, and people got life's busy. People with marriages and kids and work, they don't really and birds of a feather too, Larry. There's not a lot of people my age I know that are single, so I all my married friends hang out with other couples. All my married friends with kids hang out with other people with kids. And as far as guys in their 60s that are all by themselves with no one to talk to, that's a handful of people. So
Now, some personal. Go ahead. Finish up.
Yeah, no, it's and that's my own doing. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. It's just is what it is. And Larry, lately, in the past few years, people have been getting so sensitive with political correctness and the pandemic. I've had people write me off. I got a buddy I've known 40 years, and he just, for the dumbest reason you can think of, just stopped talking to me.
Yeah.
But you know what? I make friends easily, so I think that we're doing it.
Yeah, well, there's an old saying that says that you should be friendly to your neighbors, but you don't want to make them friends.
No.
And yeah. I would imagine it's the same for what you're talking about.
Yeah. Keep your enemies closer, that kind of thing.
You have to be careful who you vent to.
Well, that's right. Here I am venting online. Anyway.
That's okay. You'll have an opportunity to edit this if you want.
Okay, thanks, man.
Okay, on a personal note, what kind of music do you like?
Larry, boy, I love all forms of music. I mean, I love all forms of music except Busta Rhymes. I went out after working with him because he's such a sweetheart. Every morning he'd give me just this giant, very genuine bear hug in the trailer. And I went out and got 3 of his albums, and I like a lot of hip hop and rap or whatever, but I just could not. I did not know what I was listening to when I was listening to Busta Rhymes stuff. I'll have to give it another try because he's such a great guy. I really got close to his acting coach, and I mean, working on that Halloween movie for 6 weeks was just such a treat because it was just fun, fun, fun. I loved and got along with all the actors so well, and Jamie was terrific, and Bianca, and all of them, all of them. I'm a huge Katie Sackhoff fan, and Sean, and all of them. So
Well, I have to tell you that the producer of this podcast is my grandson, who is
is he?
he's a videographer and he's a rapper.
Okay.
And I want to be as supportive as I possibly can, but I just can't get my head around rap.
No, I don't know rap from hip hop, Larry. I haven't listened to a ton of it. I I'm all for African Americans getting their time and place in the spotlight and in the sun, but I do feel that a culture is what's the word? They're making gangsterism, and I don't like the sexism with the way they call women bitches this and treat women like hoes and that all that. I don't understand. I mean, that's their world, and I'm not judging, but they're glorifying the gangster lifestyle, and again, I know a lot of them don't have any choice, but um, that's my issue with some of the lyrics to their music. Because you see, when you watch these documentaries on YouTube, there's these young kids out there that are mesmerized by that style and that mentality, and these young kids think they want to pack a gun and be a tough guy. And music videos are one thing, but the reality of the streets is something very different. Because I watch a lot of true crime, and I can see how these kids are being kids of all ethnicities and age groups and all socioeconomic classes. A lot of them just think that's what they want to be. When I was young, when I was 11 years old, I wanted to be David Cassidy. These kids all want to be gun-toting rappers, and I wish them luck, but I think the reality is crashing down on them.
Well, I have to tell you that my grandson, God love him, is one of the most patient, level-headed, even people that I know, whether it's a relative or not. But then he gets on the video, and he's a hip-hop rapper, whatever it is. It's a conundrum. So anyway, I love you, Chance. How about food? What's your favorite food?
Oh my God! Anything but mushrooms,
Ah,
Larry. I haven't drank in almost 4 months, but I during the pandemic, I went. I was already dealing with depression and whatnot, and the 2 year pandemic, I gained at least 100 pounds trying to eat and drink my boredom and depression
whoa.
away. Yeah, I was 5 years ago I was 210. Now I'm 340. So I got to work on that because it's become a health issue. Blood pressure and all that. But food, Larry. I mean, I love all. I love all of it. I love Japanese, Chinese, burgers, pizza, donairs. You name it, I'll eat it.
That's great. That's great. And how about one last thing on the personal side? How about
Yeah.
How about travel?
Travel. Well, Larry.
Not non-business related travel.
Okay. When I was 10 years old in grade 5, my teacher, Mr. Redlack, with the wonky eye and the single strand of elephant hair ring, all the whole year, social studies class, the lights were out, slideshows of his travels because this guy had been everywhere twice. So as a 10-year-old boy, I thought that's what adults do when you get out of school and you got some time and money and freedom. You go traveling. So July 1987, I took off for a year around the world, and I went east. I went all through Europe and Africa, Asia, and my last leg of the trip was 3 months in Australia where I fell in love and blah, blah, blah. But I love to travel. Today, Larry, I think 4 weeks would be my maximum. After 4 weeks, I'm ready to come home. I have been a couple times with a doctor friend of mine on these motorcycle trips. We went to India for 4 weeks, and then we were in Laos and Vietnam for 4 weeks. another time. So, but I do love to travel. It's one of the things I love about the convention life is um, just this past year I got to check off Chicago as a city I've never been to. Um, uh, um, Texas. I've been down to Texas. I get these free weekends away doing the convention thing. And September, I'm going to Plymouth, Minnesota, which I'm very excited about because I've always wanted to go to Minnesota because my mom's father was from there.
Good.
He was 12 when they moved to Canada to what do you call when the government gives you some land to homestead. But he always talked about wanting to take his kids back to Minnesota and show them where he was from. It never happened. But anyway, I'm going to Plymouth in September, and I'm really excited about that. So, and going to Amsterdam with Getty, I think this is our third or fourth trip to Amsterdam together. We have a specific hotel we stay at because we know the neighborhood a little bit, and I want to get my tattoo, and I don't drink anymore, and I'm not really. I'm a big marijuana advocate. I'm not a big marijuana smoker. I was when I was a kid, but I just love Amsterdam. But I'd like to go. I'd really like to go and see the Van Gogh Museum again because Vincent's the only artist I've really ever read up on. That I know a little bit about Vincent Van Gogh, so he's my favorite painter, and I'd like to go and see Anne Frank's museum again too, of course. So
Well, keep Chicago on your list because that's my home.
Chicago,
Yeah, it is, and it's a wonderful city. It really is. They call it the second city, but it's the
yeah.
first. It's the first city as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I've been to New York, and New York is okay to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there.
yes, no, I believe that, Larry. Well, I got a buddy that lives up here, and this was years ago. Um, he was working for Pitney Bowes, and he ended up in Chicago. And for 3 years, Larry, he was like, "Brad, you got to come visit. We're gonna go watch the Blackhawks Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. We'll go check out the Bears." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And then one day, I'm back in Vancouver, so I missed my chance. So it's good to have friends in places, Larry. Because I saw Chicago, I saw the airport, and I saw the convention center and the hotel, but I didn't really see. I didn't get into downtown Chicago, so I still got to do that one day.
Well, it's my opinion that travel is the finest form of education that you could
Yes,
ever hope for.
Larry, 1,000% I agree with you.
That is the educator, beyond
Idea.
beyond all other vehicles.
When I think of what I learned in that year in travel, you couldn't get 10 years reading books in any university.
Right.
I learned so much about people and my fellow humans and the planet itself. And it was just I came home because my ticket was up, but Larry, for all I did the next few years, I might as well have stayed on the road. So I kind of promised myself if I ever came into a situation where I could do it one more time, I would do it. And the only difference would be is I wouldn't have put myself on a time schedule.
Good.
Next, if I ever do it again, I want to get past the 3 4 month mark because that's when you get really the homesick hits you. But once I got past that homesickness, which my brother had warned me about, I could have stayed on the road for. I mean, because you meet these Australians, these Kiwi kids, man. I
Yeah.
haven't been home in 8 years. These people like that. They go out and see the world for real. Then they go home to relax, to settle in.
Okay. Something on a little bit of the serious side.
Uh-oh.
What are your thoughts about happiness versus fun?
Happiness versus fun. Fun is a short term experience that you have with other people, enjoying their company, doing a particular activity. Happiness is the state of mind that we all strive for. I don't know how many of us actually ever really attain happiness. Um, I I just don't know with with all we know about how we're neglecting the planet and how we're neglecting millions and millions of our brothers and sisters, Larry, how anybody can be happy. Um, because anyway, happiness. Don't know if I've actually ever, I have a therapist I've been seeing off and on for 20 years, Larry. He said to me one day, he says, "Yeah, Brad, I don't think you've actually ever experienced happiness yet in your lifetime." So together we're working on that. I'll let you know if I ever get there,
There you
and
go.
a bottle some for you, send it to you.
And how does that all fit into your definition of success, Brad?
Success, Larry, is a person, in my opinion, because I had a father who worshipped money. He was obsessed with appearances and image. My mother was a simple Christian country girl who just, all she cared about was God, hard work, and family. Success to me is the person that allows themselves to experience as much love in their time here on earth. It can be as simple as the love of a blossoming flower or a nice bowl of cereal or a person you found that you just you prefer not to live without. Bruce Lee found the beauty and the happiness in a rainy day. His wife said she brought him back from Hong Kong and buried him in Seattle because he used to love to sit in the living room and look out the window at the rain. And I mean, it takes a special kind of a mind to find beauty and solace in rain. Up here in Vancouver, we get a lot of it, so we tend to bitch about it. But Larry, I just think a person that allows themselves to love themselves first and foremost, so they can let love in. Because if you don't have a loving relationship with yourself, you're going to be closed off to everybody else and all that the cosmos offers. That success is not money and materialism to me. Because I'll tell you, Larry, when I was in India and Morocco and these places you see some seriously poor people.
Right.
I remember as in India, I just saw more smiles, I heard more laughter, and saw more horseplay, and it literally kind of frustrated me as an ignorant North American when I was first there. I wanted to grab these people by the lapel and shake them and tell them, like, where do you get off being happy? You know how poor you are? But then I realized, Larry, that when you live your life, your entire life, solely within the realm of need, you need a dry, warm place for you and your family to sleep. You need food and water in your bellies. You need, someone. You need something. You need a purpose in life, and you need a good book to read. But you need someone to love that loves you back, and you need to give back to your fellow human beings. And they have that, and they don't worry about upgrading their rickshaw or getting a bag of organic rice. They are happy because they only value the simple things in life. Here in North America, we've got our heads up our ass about what's important, and I mean it's amazing how we don't seem to learn from all the shiny objects we buy, we covet and consume, and you don't seem to notice how after a couple of weeks it's just another possession that's in the way. That buzz of something new only lasts a short period of time. It's got nothing to do with the love you have in your heart. You love a material thing for an inanimate object for how long? A few weeks, anyway.
You're a wise man. You're a wise man, Brad
Well,
Loree.
I uh, you what
There's
you
no,
sit right
no,
there.
I mean that seriously. I'm not just saying
I
that because you've agreed to do this podcast. I've listened very carefully to everything you had to say, and I have to tell you, I wasn't expecting a lot of the shit that came out of your mouth. I really wasn't. You're a wise
well,
guy.
I don't know what you were expecting. I appreciate you saying that. I'm glad you're happy. You seem like a very interesting guy. I would really like to come and visit you in Mexico sometime.
Anytime you want, buddy. I got 3
Where in
bedrooms.
Mexico are you?
Ensenada.
Where's that, Larry?
It's about 75 miles south of Tijuana.
Okay, so you're in the Baja?
Right,
Gotcha.
right.
Okay.
How do you?
Um,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
How do you deal with being alone?
Larry, what a good question. It's funny, I was just talking about this the other day, Larry. I'll tell you, they have scientifically proven that loneliness can be as harmful as being an obese chain smoker, okay? In fact, Britain just commissioned and created a minister of loneliness a few years ago to help the British people deal with their loneliness. Larry, at a very young age, Larry, because of my relationship with my father, I kind of disassociated myself spiritually, at least, with my family. And everybody lived upstairs, and I lived in the basement by myself. And I used to love, as a kid, I used to walk home praying that no one would be home so I could have the house to myself for half an hour. And I didn't have much to do with my brother and my mother and my father growing up. And I don't want to
So,
say I got used to being lonely. Um, and I don't know what I said to my therapist, because he said, Brad, there's lots of people that are completely content being alone. You are not one of them. So I am lonely, Larry, but my loneliness today is a different animal than it was. It feels completely different, and I think part of that, Larry, is in the film industry, as a stunt person at least. You develop this very anticipatory feeling towards your fellow coworkers and your friends. It's just in your mind that eventually you're going to run into somebody. And I think that what keeps me going, Larry, is I know that I have to believe that eventually I'm going to find a partner. I haven't had a girlfriend in 13, 14 years, but I'm not I'm too young to run around. I've sold all my oats. I just want to meet somebody that likes to laugh, likes good movies, good books, and good music. And good walks and talks. Um, um, but I've also come to believe that, Larry, if I don't find someone, that I will survive this loneliness. But I would certainly prefer to have someone to talk to when I first wake up and when I go to bed. That's what I miss, having a wife, a partner, a girlfriend, whatever you want to label, you want to use. Um, During the day, I keep myself busy, but you want to share your thoughts with somebody. And I have friends that I talk to. I really like this FaceTime technology where we can see each other, but it's not the same as that actual connection with somebody. So, but I just got to be open to a relationship. I'm not a guy that I just cannot seem to get a handle on this cyber dating, Larry. This online dating. You're basically scanning pictures of women's faces like a doggy in the window, and
mm,
hoping to have personality to match. And it's so hit and miss. It just sounds like a lot of work. I just hope that one day I run into somebody or see somebody that I can go over and flirt with and convince them to let me take them for coffee. So wish me luck,
well, let me
because
ask
I
you.
I
Let,
am alone. I am lonely.
let me ask you this: Do you feel that being alone and lonely are the same thing?
No, 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 no. Lonely is, in my opinion, not being comfortable with your own company, not being comfortable in your own skin, and subsequently lonely. When I think of lonely, I think of somebody that is not content within themselves, like I said, and need the company of somebody else to fill a void or something that's missing. And I'm not a big believer in looking outward for happiness and contentment. You have to find that within. You have to have a loving relationship with yourself. You gotta enjoy your own company, and then you'll be open. Then the cosmos will open the skies, and the right person will come along. That's what I hope.
All right, finally, and then I'm going to let you go. What are your thoughts about aging?
Well, Larry, I'm actually kind of taken aback how difficult I've dealing with. When I was a little boy standing in my front yard one day, Larry, I looked up the road, up the hill, and there was this old gentleman. I mean, this guy was bent over like staring at his feet, and taking a half step. And I wouldn't turn away from him. I thought, you know what, Riley? Just give this guy another second of your time, because if you're lucky and you live a long life, that one day that's going to be you. I was only like 5 or 6, having these thoughts there. So I thought that I was kind of prepared for getting old, but now things are going wrong. The plumbing's going wrong. Everything hurts. I have got no energy lately. I've been having trouble breathing. Aging it's not for sissies, and they talk about the technology, how we're just on the cusp of eradicating aging, and we can all live forever. Let me be the first to say I'm not interested in that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's waiting for us in the hereafter, but I'm willing to find out. I'm not going to jump off a bridge this afternoon, but I hope I get to 90 healthy. But here's the answer to your question. I got no problem with aging as long as you're enjoying your life and being happy. And like Thoreau said, no one is so old as those that have outlived enthusiasm. And
Mm-hmm.
there are people in their 80s, 90s, and 100s that are still having fun. They still have friends. They still are giving back, and they still have a social life. So they have a reason to get up in the morning. But unfortunately, that's not the case for most people. I was absolutely shocked a few weeks ago when I saw there was a graph, Larry, of suicides, starting at birth to your 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. But when you got to the 60s and 70-year-olds, it went shooting up like this, which really kind of saddened me. But I understand that because I've had people in my life that are just so unhealthy, physically and spiritually, that, uh, you know, um, I understand their want to check out. We had one of our favorite stunt members just last fall, Larry. He had three strokes where he was 100% his brain was there, but he was just a head on top of a body. Physically, he was done. And he was a real outdoorsman. He loved to hunt and shoot his gun and this, that, and everything. And so his life, this life was not his life anymore. He applied for and was qualified for, what do they call it? It's medically assisted induced death. Like it's legal
Youth,
suicide.
euthanasia.
Yeah, they had a party for him, and he said goodbye to everybody. And then the next day they came, and I guess they gave him a shot. And that was so. Anyway, in answer to your question, I don't understand why people change their faces and why they dye their hair and why they can't grow old gracefully. But I noticed that with women, it's a very big deal. A lot of my female friends don't like the FaceTime. They just want to hear the voice. They don't want me looking at their face for whatever reason. And but again, that's not being content within yourself. That's ego and I don't know. I'm looking forward to getting old. Uh, Come this September, I got some buddies from high school that I will have known for 50 years, and I'm looking forward to being grumpy old men with them. So that's how I feel, because you can never have enough friends. And I got another buddy that was involved with the ambulance people up here, the healthcare people, Larry, and he said they did a survey of some elderly people years ago, just last year, and half of asking about their level of happiness, and it was 50-50. And the one thing that the people that said they were happy, the two things they had in common was they had a social life, so they were still mingling with friends and doing activities, and they were in some small way or big way being of service to another and giving back and being of service to a fellow human being. And
Absolutely.
that's the two things they had in common compared to the people that weren't happy. And listening to Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, I forget who he was quoting, but they say that the number one urge for a human being is to matter, to count. And we all want validation and we all want to be heard. So um, I wish that for everybody.
And what are your personal feelings about checking out, Brad?
Um, okay, Larry. I my good friend was Robin Williams, a stunt double for his last 17 or 18 movies. And when Robin committed suicide, my buddy Mitch was very, very upset. fortunately, Mitch was married to a Japanese lady who helped him understand, like in the Japanese culture, it's an honorable thing to check out. When you become a burden and a detriment to yourself, to your family, to society, it's a totally honorable thing in Japan to commit to harikiri. Um, and I have threatened suicide, not threatened, but I've said that when I get to be where I can't look after myself, I've got no problem checking out. I have an exit plan, and as apparently a lot of people my age do. And what's shocking to me, Larry, is how many of my buddies have the exact same attitude. They've all got an exit plan. When push comes to shove, and I can't wipe my own bum, I'm out of here.
I'm in
So
this. I'm in the same boat, my friend.
there's a group or a society up here that you pay them $50, Larry, and when you pass away, they come and take the body and they do all this stuff. It's no burden on your family. And I'm thinking I'm going to donate my body to science. If they want to chop me up and learn and discover something with my body, have at it, because I'm going to be dancing a jig somewhere else.
Anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
I just want to tell you what a pleasure it was to meet you, Larry. You seem like a very, very genuine human being, and I'm just curious as to how long you've been. I want to talk to you personally, but not while we're interviewing. But anyway, no, I'm good. Thank you for your time.
We'll talk. And take care of yourself and be well.
I will. God bless, Larry. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
And you will be happy too.